Welcome in, it's Chuck. Appreciate you so much for joining me on part 2 of our post-game show. Apologize for breaking this up, guys. Wasn't able to finish it. I do appreciate all the nice messages. As for our little lady, don't have an update other than she's feeling good, but she was never really feeling bad, which is kind of the part that makes it really scary. You know what I mean? I'll certainly keep you updated when we get some more info. On the previous show, we talked about our Juck guys of the game, Bo Jackson, Caden Curry. We talked about the big picture that this was, in fact, an important game, and Ohio State put their all into it, and they got beat by the better team on Saturday night. It happens. It sucks, but there's a silver lining. There always is. Indiana's unbelievable turnaround, the best I've ever seen, one of the best stories in sports, no doubt about it. And it's one that we'll remember, man. Who knows how high they can reach. I also think there's a ton of similarities between what just happened in Indianapolis and not with the Michigan game, which a lot of people are drawing similarities to, but the Oregon game mid-season last year. That Oregon game was two excellent opponents playing each other, almost dead even, and Ohio State came out of that game devastated, pissed off, and they ended up learning a ton about themselves from that game. The Michigan game, totally separate, different situation, can't ever be duplicated because it's just so different. That was a trash Michigan team, right? Like there's no similarities here. Ohio State played a dog of a team on Saturday. Julian saying, I think Julian saying learned more in the last two games against Michigan and against Indiana than he had in every other game outside of Texas and Washington combined. Like these last two games, he will get so much better from these last two games. And now you got 3 weeks plus of the Buckeyes sitting and stewing on that loss that's no doubt embarrassed them before they get to the playoffs. And they will get to the playoffs as the number 2 seed in those playoffs. And to get to a national championship, have to run through one of Texas A&M or Miami, which will not be an easy game, though it doesn't look as hard by comparison as probably Georgia and then probably Indiana and Oregon in the national championship game, should they make it that far. And while this gauntlet, only 3 games instead of 4 last year, one heck of a challenge, man. One that I believe the Buckeyes can still do if they learn from their mistakes, like we trust them to do. Look, this is still the best coaching staff in the country, in my opinion, despite being outcoached on Saturday. It'll happen. Cignetti got their goose. He got him. He also had, and I don't like to make excuses, and this isn't an excuse, but it is, somewhat of a qualifier, that he was probably preparing for Ohio State with a bye week, then Purdue that he beat by 53, then Ohio State for, several weeks, while the Buckeyes were all in on, we need to make sure we beat Michigan. Indiana was a distant thought. That matters some in a game that came down to just a couple of decisions, I would say. I would say there's other things that matter some as well. Defensively, we know that, what can you say? This defense, nobody scored 17 points on them all year, and they gave up 13 to Indiana. But I do think there is one glaring issue moving forward, and that issue is if you end up losing in the first round of the playoffs, we would have basically seen the first half of 2025, and that's it, of the Arvell Reese experience, because they have not weaponized him in the past 5 games leading up to this one, 6 games, and then in the Big Ten Championship, they did not really weaponize him in the way that we have seen Matt Patricia weaponize him. We've been fortunate as Ohio State fans to see plenty of top 10 NFL draft picks, but I do think that this might be the smallest amount of production or excitement we would have ever gotten to see out of one of those type of dudes if we only get to see him play like that in the first half of the season of 2025, and then he's gone. 3 times he rushed the passer against Indiana. And that's just not enough, man. Not enough. I get, there's advantages to using him in a lot of different ways, but what he does best is gets after the passer, we got to see it. We got to see more of it. Matt needs to take advantage of his weapon. He needs to take advantage of it. That needs to be a big theme, I think, as they sit and meet and determine what they're going to do next. But let's go to the offense, as we did not hit on the offense in part one of our breakdown. Ryan Day said, and he's done 2 press conferences since the game. He did the one immediately following the game, and then he did a press conference after the playoff committee announced their final results on Sunday. The second one, he talked about they wanted to be aggressive early, and they just couldn't protect good enough to make it happen. They wanted to go downfield early. But when Julian pulled the trigger on those downfield balls, they were pretty successful, throwing 4 balls 20 yards or further down the field. He completed 3 of them. Indiana blitzed him a total of 16 times, and of those blitzes, he was 6 of 11. As far as the target distribution, it's a ratio that's usually very successful for the Buckeyes. Of his targets, he had 15 total targets to JJ and Carnell and 29 total attempts. So more than 50% of his targets went to JJ and Carnell. And JJ caught 8 out of 10. Carnell caught 4 out of 5. JJ's stat line is a little wonky because he did catch that one to end the game in garbage time. But he got up about 150 yards. Carnell was about 50 yards and a touchdown. And can I just say, talking about Carnell, when he caught that touchdown, he catches it, and then in one motion, just like does this little flick of the wrist, like just looks so smooth, and the ball is just spinning on the ground vertically. Like, I have tried to do that so many times with a football with all my effort, and I can't make it do that in a way that he just all in one motion catches it, lets it go, and it's just he's so smooth, man. He just smooth. That's it. That's the word to describe the guy. Everything he does, effortlessly smooth. It was incredible. But 15 targets for those 2, that's great. You also had 2 more for BI. So 17 total for your wide receivers. And I'm sorry, did I say it was it 29 attempts or 27? Let me double check this. 29 attempts for Julian. And 29 attempts for Julian, 15 to Carnell and JJ. 2 more went to BI. He caught 1 of 2, including a really clutch catch, tough grab. And then the rest of them went 4 targets to running backs, 2 to Donaldson, 2 to Bo. You had 2 to Max Clare, and you would say that's not near enough, but you also had 3 to Will Kazmarek, who really came through well with those. And then you had 1 to Christian Bennett Christian. And we'll talk about that one. So I thought it was a real big error. But Julian on the day, 21 for 29, 72% completion percentage. Average depth of target was 10.5. That's about 1.5 yards further down the field than usual. And he was credited with 1 big-time throw that was the one to JJ that was slightly underthrown, but he had pressure coming. He couldn't really get it all into it. Sacked 5 times, as we know. And other than that, the stats between these 2 teams offensively were almost just even Steven. 17 first downs apiece. Indiana 340 yards, Ohio State 322. Rushing yards, Indiana had 118, but just 3.5 yards a carry. Ohio State with 87 by the running backs. You had minus 29 for Julian, which if you pull that off, it looks like a paltry 58. Isaiah West had 3 carries, just 4 yards on those 3 carries. 2 of them, he was met by multiple guys in the backfield. One of them, I think, lost 2 yards. Bo ends up getting 17 carries and rushed for a fantastic 83 yards. It was awesome. 56 of those yards came after contact. Technically only credited with 1 missed tackle forced, which means those yards after contact wasn't from breaking a tackle. It was from like that guy ended up bringing him down, but he was just getting an extra 2 and 3 yards after that first guy made contact. The balance and spinning and just like fighting as hard as he could every time not to go down. It was so cool to watch, man. He was just a dog in it all the way. And I loved it. The plays in this game were very low, as both teams, 57 for Indiana, 56 for Ohio State, and they each only had 8 possessions if we're not going to count the 25 seconds Indiana got the ball back with before the first half ended, and 18 seconds Ohio State got the ball back at the very end of the game. They had 8 possessions to score, 8 possessions. And when we look at that, here's another bizarre one. Not a single 3 and out in a 13-10 game. That's wild. Indiana ran the ball 34 times. Ohio State ran the ball 26 times. Indiana passed the ball just 23 to Ohio State's 30. You had 29 from Julian, and you had the trick play. Total time of possession, identical. Just everything appears almost identical on the offensive side of the ball. But the Buckeyes scored just 10 points, and that was repulsive. That's repulsive. And a lot of people talking about the penalties after the game. Indiana had 5 penalties for 49 yards. Ohio State was called for just 2 for 20. Obviously, we saw a ton of footage come out after the game and saw it during the game as well. And Joel Klatt even called one out too of really bad holding, particularly on Kenyatta, who was a destroyer of men in that game. He was awesome. And we're seeing that surge, man, that Kenyatta surge. We saw it late last year. Guy's just killing it. He's killing it. But if they're going to allow guys to do that to him, I don't know what you do. You certainly take away a large chunk of what like you're earning those plays. Those should technically, at minimum, knock this dude off of his spot, right? If not be a full-on sack. The one where he was tackled by 2 guys was just ridiculous. But like I said, I don't like to talk about penalties unless we're talking about like one specific penalty that changes a whole spot, because we just talk about it. I don't know, man. It's just like you got to overcome it. You can't do anything about it. I like to talk about what we can control. And Ohio State, as far as things they could control, I thought there were plenty of errors that could have changed this game that, they just made errors or didn't take advantage of the circumstances. But there certainly were extenuating circumstances that could have thrown them off. I mean, obviously, it was a huge emotional win against Michigan. And I talked about, of all the teams that I might be worried coming off that hugely emotional win going into the Big Ten championship game, this team isn't the one I'm worried about, because there are so many just professional young men, right? They're older up here. They're way more mature than they are years old, like Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles. And well, if we're talking about those 2 guys and their unit, yeah, it didn't distract them. They didn't let it get in their head. They did exactly what they should have. Matter of fact, Sonny and Caleb themselves both had great games. Caleb was getting in people's faces, his guys on defense, and they were great. They were great. The defense, by and large, the effort they put together against that team, a very good team, fantastic effort. I thought they played great. So definitely wasn't distracting to them. But to the team as a whole, maybe a little bit. Signing day was obviously rougher on the coaches probably than anything else. And obviously the Heartline distraction, big for the coaches and the game plan, probably big for a lot of players too. And timing wise, Indiana, obviously they had the massive advantage with the bye week, then Purdue. So again, not excuses, but all these things, when we're talking about just a couple of plays deciding a game, who knows, man? A tick here, a tick there. My point is, there's a reason that Ohio State is still the favorite to win the national championship, and Indiana's in this field, meaning if they're to match up again, Ohio State is the favorite. And those circumstances won't be there. They'll be much more even this time around. And but let's get to all the things that they did that went wrong, right? The things that kind of went wrong at all the wrong times. I mean, for starters, they were 4 of 13 on 3rd and 4th down. That's less than 33%. Indiana, They were 50%, 7 of 14. And you can kind of look at the stats at the end of a game and just look at that one and usually be able to see who the winner was just by that stat right there. Ryan Day was asked about the play calling. Did anything change in the way the plays were called? And he said after the game in Indy, I'm not going to get into too much of that. Brian's doing the best he can. So that answer kind of leads me to believe that, yeah, things changed a little bit. And then on Sunday, the playoff press conference, he was asked, what will the plan be moving forward? And he said, we're still kind of talking through things, but essentially said things are going to be the same, as in Brian's calling the plays. And for anybody that says, like, I hate that Brian's calling the plays, you're going to find another person on the other side saying, I hate Ryan Day calling the plays. And that game had Day's signature all over it. Looked like the Michigan game last year. And the truth is, unless we're on that headset, right, we have no idea at all how many plays are coming down from the booth that Ryan Day is saying, I'd rather see something else. Like, we just have no idea what that is, right? We don't know, and we're never going to know. But when we talk about big games, Ryan Day in big games particularly has his thumbprint all over the direction of the game plan. It's his offense as far as the guy who's actually sequencing each play and deciding which one he's going to choose out of the 6 in each little individual situation they have broken down, like 3rd and long from the high red zone. We're going to call one of these 6 plays. They're all working on what 6 plays they're putting in each situation. And then he's the guy choosing them. And regardless of any of this, Ryan Day, it's his offense. When he hires a new coordinator, he's going to be hiring a new coordinator that's going to come in and call his offense, the Ohio State offense. And as long as it is that way, and it will be forever under Ryan Day, the buck stops with him when it comes to offensive play calling for me. Because he's on that headset, his offense, he's helping with the game plan for his offense. It's him. The other guy, he's just putting them in order. And if he's not doing a good enough job, Ryan's going to try to help him out and veto or whatever. But it's him for me. It's him. I have no idea how much of the plays in one particular game he's vetoing or saying, I'd rather see this in this situation. And none of us ever will. Play calling sucks is something you hear from so many fans when things don't go their way. And it's just like the kind of lowest hanging fruit. And generally the examples that they give of a play call sucking is just a play that didn't work. And maybe they personally prefer something else, but it was a totally reasonable play to call in that particular situation. But when it comes to critical situations in this game that we're talking about, I felt that there were a couple where the concepts and the personnel groupings absolutely did suck. And my hope is that they will agree when they look at it and get it corrected, particularly in the 3 series that decided the game for Ohio State on offense. The second half starts with Ohio State, 5 plays punt, Indiana, 7 plays, 88 yards, 3.5 minutes, touchdown, 13-10 lead. When the Buckeyes take it over midway through the third quarter, they are now down in the game by 3. And they put together a drive, and they find themselves looking to answer down to Indiana's 14-yard line. On first down, a 7-yard completion to Will Kazmarek. Things look good. Second down, a 2-yard run. Now it's 3rd and 1. And buddy, you want to talk about bad play calls, the low-hanging fruit where fans talk about bad play calls. This one, I don't think anybody would argue, not only a bad play call, but a horribly designed play. A horribly designed play, rolling out your right-handed quarterback to the left. Some people get angry about cutting off a half the field. I'm with you on the left-hand side. I actually think Julian, in some cases, really excels at this on the right-hand side. But you're rolling your right-handed quarterback left, and he has got 2 options this play. He can run the ball, or he can throw it to his one receiver. That's it. No other options. There's one, and I don't care that he's the best one in the world in JJ. He's not open, and there's nothing to do here. So 3rd and 1, kaput, dead. Now, it's 4th and 1. 4th and 1, and what we see on our end, unless you're at the game, is the Buckeyes line up, quarterback sneak. From our angle, clearly they get the first down. Fox cuts to commercial. They come back from commercial, only for Joel Klatt to tell us, by the way, that call got overturned. It's now 1st down Indiana. Julian's knee was down. And sure enough, his knee was down, well short. He was a full yard short. And he's a small quarterback, not powerful at all. And the stalemate at the line of scrimmage was evident all day long. And you're coming off a game against Michigan where he lost his footing. And I don't think it was snow. It might have had a little something to do with it, but he was leaning really far forward. And then who he was leaning on got a little push and it gave way and he fell. It's just he's not good at it. He's not good at this. I don't think he's good at it. Now, even though Ryan Day asked him after the game, how many of those have we missed this year? Julian said 2. I don't know how many they have gone for, but generally they're going after that against teams where they have an advantage up front and they're blowing them off the ball a bit. And that's just not the case Saturday night. That's not what was happening. They weren't blowing them off the ball. So why not use your athletic quarterback? Or better yet, why not use your premier running back who you've elected to pull off the field in every short yardage situation the entire year? The guy who has shown so much incredible balance to stay up and power all night in Bo Jackson or Lincoln. No, you go with Julian. And doing that right after that 3rd and 1 call that was atrocious was just a real gut punch. A real gut punch. This is not a team that is going to be able to run the quarterback sneak well with an undersized quarterback who weighs 190 pounds soaking wet. Just not going to be that team. So the Bucks give up the ball, and Indiana takes it 9 plays, 44 yards down the other way. Buckeyes get it back again. Still down 13-10. And now we've got a little game strategy to talk here, as they've got the ball now with 10 minutes left in the 4th quarter and they're down by 3. Every version of Ryan Day's offenses and his coaching style for the first, let's say, 7 years, counting his coordinator years at Ohio State, I believe Ryan Day looks at this situation right here, down by 3, 10 minutes to go, ball at his own 20. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to get 7. We're going to hold him on defense, and I'm going to win the ball, win the game with the ball in my hands. Or if they score, I'm going to make sure I got enough time here to get the ball back and go score again. But it's 2 possessions, 10 minutes left. Not this team. Not this team. They don't have the ability to score quickly unless they hit a long one. And they are certainly not doing it playing fast, picking up large chunks. They're not going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And we'll talk about the series before halftime in a minute. So they do what they do, the efficiency route, 15 plays, 81 yards. And now they're down to the 18-yard line. And on 1st down, an 8-yard run for Bo. We're feeling great. 2nd down, a 1-yard run. And here we go. It's 3rd down. And just like the 3rd and 1 previously, we've got 3rd and 1, and we roll Julian to the right, which again, I'm not totally against this. This time, he's got a couple options. So already we are better off in both direction, and we've now got 2 potential guys to throw the ball to. Your first read here is Bo Jackson. It's just 3rd and 1. If you can hit him for a little 3-yard pickup, whatever, you got a 1st down, you're rolling. Bo's covered up. So you go to the 2nd route. And the 2nd route is Bennett Christian in the end zone. And Bennett Christian is the least athletic, least likely pass catcher on this tight end crew. He's the last one of all those tight ends, and I'm including Max LeBlanc, and Brody Lennon that I would feel comfortable in this situation, Julian throwing it. And of course, he's covered. He can't get an inch of separation. We all know as the ball's in the air, this pass has a 2% chance of being caught. And this is the biggest moment of the championship game. Number one, why is Bennett Christian in the game? What is it that you saw heading into this game that made you think playing the tight ends 105 snaps was a good thing to do? There was 57 offensive snaps. Tight ends played 105. And now we're back to this again. We're back to this again with the tight end thing. And I would posit that Keenan BAILEY, who you guys know I love, running that tight end room has not been a good thing for this team. Not because he's not done a good job. I think he's done a fantastic job. But Keenan is so influential, and he wants his room to be successful, obviously. He's working with these guys directly. He loves the 13 and 14 personnel. He pushes for it. We heard him coming off the field against Michigan in the tunnel last week. They're coming in the tunnel, and he's yelling up, Tebow, 14 personnel. Now, huh, Tebow? He's talking about 14 personnel to Tyler Bowen. How about it? He wants the guys out there working. And because he's been so good and he's in all the offensive meetings, he's coming up with the game plan. Sometimes they're like, yeah, okay, let's go Keenan's route. This is how I see this playing out. And we're back to this again in the biggest game of the year, that they thought that this was the time to reintroduce playing a ton of tight ends. And to me, and I think to most people, it absolutely defies logic to remove JJ and Carnell as much as they do in these situations. It just defies logic. But when we talk about going forward on fourth or not, which I know a lot of people are really angry about, some people agree, some people are angry. This is a 50-50 thing, right? This one right here, 50-50. I don't think Ryan Day has a track record of us being able to pigeonhole him one way or another, of saying, like, I knew in that moment Ryan Day was going to do this or that. And I think that's great. I think that a coach should be unpredictable in those situations as to not knowing what he's going to do. I didn't know what he was going to do. I thought he was going to go for it on that 4th and 1, down by 3. There was 2:44 left on the clock. 2:44. And you could say you haven't done good in short yardage all day. Make the field goal, or you lose the game right there. And maybe that's exactly what Ryan Day was thinking. But if you don't get it right there, if you don't get the first down, you need your defense to make a stop and get you the ball back. But if you tie it up, you still need your defense to make a stop, or else they're going to go down and kick a field goal and win it. So either way, you need your defense to make a stop. To me, that's go for it, man. You're in the Big Ten championship. The best you can do if you make that field goal is play for overtime. Indiana clearly has more momentum offensively than you. And it just feels like that's a go for it spot, man. That is I got to make it so that when they get the ball back, they need to score a touchdown to win the game. I have to put them in that position, or I'm not going to win this. My odds are low. And but whatever. I can't fault him for that. Like, I like to see him more aggressive, but that's like, sure, it's just as valid on his side of that argument. And if that's your argument, I'm with you. I get it. I would have preferred to see they go for it. But there's one thing that he forgot to factor in. He forgot to factor in when he was making his decision that the guy he was running out there to kick that field goal is a guy who has blown it in big moments. Against Michigan last week, he almost blew one. The first field goal this week, the first field goal against Indiana was not, it was a little stressful. And sometimes you guys get on me for cooking the players too hard because they're college guys, and I get it. But these are pros now, man. These are pros. They're making money. They're college. I mean, I give them more grace than I give guys in the NFL, but you are now getting paid to do a job and to execute on the field. And when you are someone who's made multiple mistakes, and you're a kicker, like I don't like kickers to begin with. I don't like kickers because I don't feel like football is a sport that is all intertwined. Like everything's intertwined, all the positions, and you got position groups, and then like on a football team, then you've got the kickers. They're just off by themselves always. They're never with the team. They're off doing their own thing. Just a couple of them. It's a couple of dudes hanging around. And it's just this weird part of football that is so crucial to the sport and involves these players that wear the same pads and the same gear, look nothing like everybody else, and go do something else all week long. And then you bring them in these huge moments. It is a really strange deal. You know, it used to be a lineman was a kicker. But this guy, man, when we talk about part of the team, he actually is. He is part of the team. He's a guy who was just talking a couple weeks ago, talking about being a senior and being part of the senior class and having to lead. He's also cocky. He's got some serious ego. And there's a video of him yucking it up with Indiana fans. I mean, just they're giving him the business, friendly. He's giving it back. And there's play going on, right, on the field. And that irks me. I wonder how James Corville was never able to supplant him at this point. But I didn't like the decision. And of course he comes in and he misses the kick. And now that decision is made for you going forward, right? There's no chance that you can bring this guy in a big situation ever again for the duration of his hopefully 3 games at Ohio State. Can't do it. This is a guy who has now played a large part in losing 2 of your last 3 losses. He was a big part in losing the Michigan game, a big part in losing this game. And either you go with Corville or you're going for it on 4th down. Like, I don't know what this was, an extra point that he yanked, and it was all pressure. You can't fix that in this amount of time. Sure, you can work with sports gurus, scientists, whatever, but it's not getting fixed, man. It's not getting fixed. And that's just disgusting. It's disgusting to me. In addition to that we're talking about Ryan Day, a coach who literally lost a national championship due to a kicker not being able to make a field goal. Granted, a vastly different situation, a really long field goal that if we're just averaging how many college kickers make that field goal in that spot, like what are the odds, right? They're really low. But it would seem to me like that would stick in my craw. And then having the situation last year in the Michigan game and losing that game, if I'm Ryan Day, I feel like I am going to have the best kicker in the country. I don't care what it costs. Like, I just feel like that's what it would drive me to do. And you got this dude in here missing an extra point length chip shot, losing a game again. It's terrible. And I feel bad for the guy. Sure, I feel bad for him. But do your job, man. Do your damn job. That's it. You know who else can't do their job? In a situation like this, against a defense like this, Tegra is a damn liability. He's a liability. And it is unacceptable to continue to roll a liability out there to start when you've got a better option. And you do. You got a better option. Gabe Van Sickle came in and outplayed him. Vastly outplayed him. Ryan Day was asked about the sacks that they gave up, and Ryan Day said, twists and stunts, and we didn't handle it very well. It's a major lesson to this team. Well, it was a lesson against Wisconsin, and it was a lesson against Purdue, 2 dreadful teams. And it was a lesson that didn't teach them that 77 cannot handle that. Can't handle it. Can't handle it at all. he can run block. He can pass block. If there is lateral movement and there's chaos, he's out. He can't do it. I don't know if you decide how you're going to play him based on what you know the defense is going to do or what you think the defense is going to do. But if he rolls out and starts another game, man, it almost feels like dereliction at this point. Because we've seen Padilla and Gabe both play better than him when they've played. I thought Gabe did a great job. By the way, he graded out higher than anybody else. But as we're talking about things that decisions that kind of played a big part in the game, let's roll to, and again, guys, this is just me running through the things that I thought were things that could have been handled better, things that I hope will be handled better in the future, things that I hope they're talking about in their meetings and they're going to fix. And I got full confidence they're going to fix everything they want to fix. But some of these things I don't know that they want to, in particular, the thing we're about to talk about. But this is not me dooming and glooming. If you ask me today, who do I think is going to win the national championship? I got full faith that the Buckeyes are going to bounce back from this and run through this gauntlet. That's what I believe. I'm just getting off my chest the things that irritated me from a loss, the first we've experienced in a year. Now, this one that I don't think is going to change. Ohio State had just 8 possessions with the ability to score. 8 possessions with the opportunity to score. This is what they've been averaging, between 8 and 9 possessions. This is a low amount of possessions. Indiana, for instance, has been, I believe, 10 or 11. So when you know you're playing a game with 8 possessions are at a premium. And when you just care about efficiency and not speed at all, that's fine and dandy if you're scoring on 5 or 6 of your possessions, which Ohio State has been. The problem arises when, and we've talked about this for months, what happens when you need to pick up the tempo? What happens? And they started off the season saying that they would be mixing it in here and there, using it as a weapon, but they never did. And at some point, that changed from headquarters. I think most recently 3 weeks ago was the last time we heard Ryan Day talk about it. And basically just said, we're going to do it when we need to do it, which to me has always felt like a poor strategy and a glaring issue all year. Not issue at the time, but potentially an issue in the future. And a lot of people were just under the impression they could flip the switch and do it whenever they wanted to. And I just don't think it works that way. And I just foresaw it being clunky and terrible. In addition to that, when you are in a game like a game against Indiana, like we just saw, it feels like it's a weapon that you can use at some point during the game. Indiana used it on us. It feels like a weapon that you can use, if you're good at it, to get the defense on their heels. Like all the reasons that everybody went to it years ago, they're all still there. But when you can catch people off guard with it, that's when it really hurts. And they just choose to never do it. And it's not about saving plays anymore that everybody, said early on. That's not what it's about anymore. You're here. Now you're here. It has nothing to do with saving plays. They just refuse to do it. And I feel like it's giving away something that you with your personnel could be really good at, and you choose not to. Now, I didn't think that when they flipped the switch, they would just be able to do it. But it's even worse than that, because when they took over the ball with 2:40 left, they didn't even try. They didn't even try. Remember, that's your 4th possession of the first half. You know you're only going to get 8 possessions in the game. Ryan Day was asked about this. He was asked about it in Sunday's press conference. What he said was, I stand by the decision that I made. All the data would say the same thing. And what he was trying to do was run the clock down to 2 minutes and then get it going. So gets the ball, snaps it, I believe 2:37-ish left. They picked up 11 yards, right? So that's perfectly reasonable. You let it run down to the 2-minute warning. Now you've got 2 minutes left. What happened next has zero explanation, because remember, he said he intentionally wanted to run it down from 2:47 to 2 minutes with one play, and he did that. Now, the next play, it's first down from their own 36-yard line. 2 minutes left after the 2-minute warning. It's a 4-yard run to Bo Jackson, brings the ball up to the 40-yard line. You're at the 40-yard line. It's now 2nd and 6. They just ran a play after the 2-minute warning, and he let the whole play clock run down. Let it all run down. And the next play resulted in a sack. And when that happened, there was 1:15 left. Now it's 3rd and 8 at the 38. And by the time that next play, that pass became incomplete, there are now only 32 seconds left. There's zero explanation with 2 minutes left from your own 36 with a first down that with just 8 possessions in the game, you decide to burn clock, man. That's what they did. Point blank. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And this right here, I'm sitting back going through all the different times we've discussed throughout the season, and people like me have been irritated by this, the pace of play, the lack of seeing any amount of up-tempo ever, have been stressed out about what it's going to look like when they actually need it, because they've only had 1 2-minute drill the entire year. And here they got it, just one of their just 8 possessions, and they didn't even try. Just gave it up. And again, you can do that in a game where you're playing 14 possessions. Can you do it in a game where you're playing 8 possessions? I thought it was inexcusable. And now when it comes to this is another thing where it's like, this isn't going to be addressed. They clearly believe this is the right thing. He believes this is the right thing to do. He defended it at the press conference, but nobody was looking and say, oh, wait, but the next play, you let the whole play clock run down again after the 2-minute warning. So he said he wanted to get it to 2 and then hit it. He never hit it. He's like, but you got to get the first down. You do, but you let the whole play clock expire again. So I don't get it. I don't understand the reluctance. I don't know what he's scared of or why he doesn't want to do it. It's got nothing to do with saving guys' plays at the end of the season. We're way past that. And here we are. Don't get it. What we used to see from Ryan Day's offense is when they wanted to hit it, man, they did it better than anybody. Bing, bang, boom, bang, bing, touchdown. It was beautiful. I don't understand what the change was in his brain that he doesn't ever want to do this anymore, but we've not seen it at all. And that was a perfect opportunity to go down and get 3 points before the half. And he chose not to. Might have gotten a touchdown before the half, and he chose not to. So I expect all the issues that he sees, and he talked about not being able to sleep, having a rough night watching the film, and I bet he watched it over and over and again. I expect all those issues to be fixed. I expect a hungry, pissed off team. I don't expect that to be fixed. Not at all. I don't expect the heavy tight end personnel thing to be something that we don't see again. I think we very well might. It's those things. You know what I mean? Anyway, the Buckeyes are going to get to play the winner of Texas A&M and Miami. I can't wait to watch that game. It's going to be a banger. And those dudes are going to have 10 days after that banger to suit up for the Buckeyes. And if it's Texas A&M, it's another Texas team in Jerry World in the Cotton Bowl against the Buckeyes, which makes it all the sweeter. Should the Buckeyes win that, they're going to get the dogs, man. I believe they're going to get the Dogs. If the Dogs get a rematch with Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin, like, come on, dude. Not a worry at all, especially the way they're playing. And then it'll be Ohio State and Georgia again in the semifinal, a rematch in the semifinal. And I've been wanting to play them again ever since that damn game. A game that the Buckeyes had in their grasp, did not win. And of course, after that, Ohio State, should they win that, would get an opportunity to have a rematch against Indiana or a rematch against Oregon, who I believe one of those two will come out of that side of the bracket, unless Texas Tech is really that dude. And maybe he is. Maybe he is that dude. But as of now, that Georgia team looks on fire. The Indiana team's obviously on fire and flying on top of the world. And the Buckeyes still the favorite to win the national championship. When we look at these national championship odds, Ohio State and Indiana basically lockstep. Pull them up here and see exactly where we're at. Buckeyes plus 220, Indiana plus 290, Georgia plus 550. Then we got Oregon plus 800, Tech plus 900, and A&M plus 17. So they believe that Oregon and Tech got a shot, but that's where it ends. And Ohio State, Indiana, and the Dogs all up front. This is going to be a really exciting playoff. Obviously, we'll do some more talks and discussion about how we got here, the final selection. I thought it was hilarious and fun. Notre Dame's reaction has been so cool. But all in all, man, you get this one behind you. It stings. It hurts. We're all going to be forgetting about it pretty soon, and we'll be on to what we're looking out for here in this first round of playoffs, which is going to be a ton of fun. And I can't wait to get into it. Get this sour taste out of my mouth. But I always know with confidence that when Ryan Day loses a game, his team is going to come back. If it's another big game, looking sharp. I have that feeling. Now, we have seen him come off of a loss and look really bad. After Oregon, remember, they had a bye week last year, the first Oregon game, and then they played Nebraska, which was a terrible game. But it was an opponent that, you just got the feeling that team did not respect as much as they needed to, because they had just lost by 50 to Indiana the week before. So they thought they were an absolute joke. And obviously now they got a tough opponent. Like, it's here, man. It's here. This is everything they work for. And they've repeated over and over again. They're not shying away from wanting to repeat. This is the goal. So Indiana in the books, over with. The streak is over. The pressure of that is off. And in a way, that's a good thing. Trying to go 16-0, difficult, man. Really difficult. Now, all they got to play for is, look, this is just this next game against A&M or Miami. But I'd love to know, who do you want more? I mean, from a historical context, of course, you'd love to beat Miami. You'd love to beat Miami again. But then there's also, from the SEC nonsense point of view, you'd love to take it to another SEC team and to do it again in Jerry World with all their stupid fans. And that, I think Texas A&M has the worst color. I think it's horrible. It's like a cross between plum and brown. It's nasty. And then just the white to go with it. Awful. Now, Virginia Tech, on the other hand, when you mix in a color like that with that orange, that's a good look. It's ugly, but it's good looking ugly. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, appreciate you guys. I will talk to you soon. Please like the video. Subscribe if you haven't. JUCK'S out.